My little adventures in art. This morning I looked up how many days there were left until first day of spring. 83, the computer complained. I set off on a quest this year, as music and I, of all the things, have been at a somewhat of a disagreement, as it is just never quite right for my workout dancing. It all started when I bought some 3D baroque ornamentation models for my jewelry printing. I got a really good look at neat jewelry inventions, but I could not print them out for 3D printers, not without uncertainties. And here I stumbled on the art of remeshing. It is the tedious process of rebuilding 3D models triangle by triangle. Most often it is to make the models more compatible with whatever you're working on. But you also optimize them this way and repair any problems, or just make them your own. So the models I bought for just a couple of dollars ended up being really just ideas and maps. Then, when examining the details of a $100 resin printer, I've noticed that jewelry needed more than a cheap printer. It needed far more. While this is not a problem, as all the remeshing will make me really good at modeling and I can sell models online just fine, it is a tangent that I did not expect, and I had to suspend my jewelry design, though I do feel remeshing calling to me. Yeah, I'm ready for it. After jewelry, I jumped into art, and Krita's reference images tool proved to be magnificent. I began rebuilding entire photographs and closed with my first proper venture into stylization. I actually froze my art at that point. Once we reach hyperrealism, the first thing we want to do is get away from it, because hyperrealism robs us of our own special style. It's in there. We each love different things about the face and different color combinations, so we are predisposed to develop our own style. So as long as you're not working with hyperrealism for too long. In my research, I have encountered a handful of portraits from a number of random artists that were so beautiful that I needed to just rest away from art, because the height I reached was no longer very far up there. And I feel art calling to me every day. All the colors, I am ready for it. Ready for it. I don't know where to start. At that point, I was struggling with music, having freshly discovered that I could bring new music into the world of shuffle dancing if I just altered the tempo. You can change the tempo of a song without chipmunking it. Both the open source Audacity and command line FFmpeg have that feature. This is where my computer started giving me trouble, and I had to do an emergency website redesign so that the website generator that drives my study of poetry had a chance of running on a cheap computer. I still have to finish some things. A whole bunch of things. For one, I have to escape 600 poems, though it will take a moment. It is important because you can't click on the links they got quoted somehow. Alas, having music and programming on my mind resulted in a really unexpected and kind of weird tangent. I wrote a very tiny window manager for web pages because the Atom editor was being embraced, extended, and extinguished. And a plain old web page, or even that four-way split that some companies do, just does not have enough room for all the tools and terminals and editors. Sort of a mouse cursor oversight that I discovered today, where I need to add mouse leave event to put the cursor back to normal. I guess I did in fact code a small windowing system for a web page, though it remains to be seen how many windows HTML can open or simulate without a performance hit. Without optimizations, it's probably between 10 and 30, which is not bad, though it is not the 3,000 I was hoping for. When I originally started thinking about building a window manager, I wanted to take a leap into the world of visual programming where I connect all the windows together. But given performance issues, I like where my windows are at. I don't feel too bad about not being able to create some performant visual programming language. I like the world of HTML, where the user interface is there for you. And Bootstrap just released Alpha 1 of dark mode support. Color themes, really. So graphics programming is just not very exciting right now, relatively speaking. When the question of what program to create for my first little window on my little OS, I just wanted to write a desktop switcher, like Alt and Tab on a normal computer. And then follow up with the code editor and an Xterm terminal. I previously fitted the OS with a tiny CouchDB API-inspired database, and it turned out that it is just what Svelte stores needed for more complex user interface inventions. The DB tags along with a proper event emitter-based bus, and this works great with Xterm.js as it can just emit commands as events. I like the simplicity of terminal escape sequences even better than I like HTML. But somehow I ended up with a beat sequencer clone that looks exactly like the Tome.js sequencer example, though the code does flow differently to make it work with Svelte. I plugged it into the still unfinished windows and kind of just sat there, making little four-tone melodies. Even though it sounds somewhat silly, they are proper audio samples from some ancient Casio piano probably. They are not synthesized. Given some proper samples, it's already enough to make some original dance songs that I so desperately need for my workouts. With spring so near, I continued thinking about all the colorful turns that I took this year. The year before, I learned 3D printing and making tools and even screws. I even took to jogging in the snow, which I now consider to be the only sane way to jog. And of course, studied dance and music theory, which added up to create the beat sequencer and some other things. It all came together to create something far more than I could ever expect. I think it is because I wasn't trying to learn something that was on my to-do list. Instead, I pursued what was interesting to me. I've learned a magnitude more this way. I feel that I've created a sturdy stepping stone that will help me explore even more curiosities, and perhaps more importantly, scattered across a broader field. We should all set off on such little quests that revolve around our curiosities, no matter where they take us. I think these colorful and beautiful pursuits of curiosities are far superior to any other form of education.